spokesman just told me the family is spreading false information and false hope. We'll be following the story, Harris.
All right, Claudia, thank you. Actually, let's get more on this now with Dan Schorr, a former prosecutor, and Evangeline Gomez, a defense attorney. Good to have you both. Boy, this is a tough one. You know, every day we learn a little bit more from the hospital, from the family. Now you have barbs being thrown against this family, which legally, I don't know if you'd advise anybody to do that. But where are we right now, Evangeline? Does this hospital have the right to refuse to help this family move this child?
Under California law, she is dead. Irreversible brain death, which is what she is suffering from. You had two experts that said she has irreversible brain death. You
At least two.
At least, and you had a third one, which was an independent expert that was chosen by the judge who came back with the same report. Under California law, she is dead, so the hospital is not required to perform any type of medical procedures on her.
But can they stop the family from moving her? Like, can they come maybe with their own doctor, Dan?
Right, the debate has changed. Earlier in the week, the court ruled that the hospital does not have to continue life support because the family wanted to continue it. But now they have another place that will continue life support.
Right.
And the issue is, can they perform the procedures that are necessary to transfer her to this other place? It's hard to imagine that there won't be some accommodation considering another place is willing to continue life support and the family wants it.
Go ahead.
And according to reports, the attorney for the hospital has come out and said that they're not going to interfere if the family wants to move Jahai to a new facility.
But they would have to bring in then a separate doctor because the hospital won't allow its own doctors to do this breathing and feeding tube procedure, and you can't move that child unless you do that.
That's their initial statement, but remember, there's not only the legal battle, there's also the public opinion battle, and a lot of people are supporting the family and saying, well, if they have another place that's willing to conduct life support and continue it, and the family wants to move her, why can't the hospital do something? So you might see this develop over the next few days. The life support is supposed to continue until Monday at 5 p.m.
What are the family's options, though, beyond that point? Because if a law says the hospital sees her as brain dead and can turn off the life support, wouldn't the nursing facility in the same jurisdiction say the same thing eventually?
This is not the hospital's policy. This is California state law.
So how does the nursing home get around that?
I don't know how they get around it. And also, to keep her on the ventilator, if under California state law she is declared dead, she's considered dead, what insurance provider is going to provide her with coverage for the ventilator?
Well, there's two different issues. One is whether the hospital has to continue life support, and the other one is whether a facility can if they want to. So another facility is saying they want to, and the family is saying that their health insurance will cover this. So that's the option that they're presenting to the hospital. Help us transfer her to a place that will continue life support, and our insurance will cover that.
You know, it's interesting. You talk about the PR side of this. And public opinion does get into cases like this. But at the end of the day, does anybody have the power to step in and bring two sides together and solve this?
Well, one function of a judge is to try to sometimes work out an agreement between parties. And the judge ruled for the hospital before, but if the family goes forward with another legal action to try to get the procedure done to move her to the other hospital, the hospital may oppose that, but maybe a judge can work out some agreement where the procedure can be done and then she could be moved.
Harris, the bottom line in this case is the family is having a very difficult time grieving and dealing with her loss, and that makes perfect sense. They're not ready to let her go, so you're hoping the hospital and the family can somehow reach an agreement whereby there's a mutual decision as to when they'll be ready to let her go.
And then at the end of the day, if there is any sort of recourse for this family with this hospital too, because this tonsillectomy obviously went wrong. We've talked about this in recent days, but I'm wondering how the argument about where the child goes then plays into that in the end. As the hospital, do you want the child to stay there? Or are you wanting the child to move on if the family is going to persist?
Well, if you're talking about civil liability, you can expect probably a civil suit later on because she did go into for a tonsil removal operation and now she's brain dead. But we don't know yet whose fault that was, whether that was based on unforeseen circumstances or whether the hospital did something wrong. And we won't know that for a long time.
Evangeline, one last thought?
Also, one last thought is this is something they could add to their lawsuit in that the hospital did not in any way help us while we were grieving. So we had pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Good argument.
Just pray for this family to find some closure one way or the other, though, because now the whole nation is vested and we're all watching, and that's some pressure on the situation, too, that the family then has to navigate as well. Dan, Evangeline, thank you very much for coming in during the holidays. Blessings to you and your families.
You too.
A major decision today on the government's collection of our personal data. A federal judge in New York has ruled that the NSA's phone tracking program